Hello, welcome to this coronavirus webinar sponsored by University Consultants of America. I am Bob LeVine, the founder and CEO of UCA. Today we're going to get you an overview of SAT and ACT preparation, those tests that American universities love so much. Next week we will have an expert helping with the verbal sections of the SAT and ACT. That will be Kimberly Santamaria of Writing Coaches of America. But first, I want you to understand the overview so that as you get closer and closer to the test and work on your studying, you can do a better job. Let us start by understanding where we are today. The United States is in the throes of the coronavirus pandemic. Things are closing. Most of our schools are closing, both in the high schools and the universities. And there will be some special challenges for you, in particular, the tests. Both SAT and ACT are getting to the point where their test dates are changing and even being canceled. You know that the March SAT was canceled. Let me now show you an update from SAT. The March and May SATs are canceled. They'll be refunding your registration fees. For the ACT, the national test is rescheduled, but one wonders whether the international test will be canceled. This stuff changes every day. So to the extent you're not getting information sent to you, please just go ahead and check the official websites. All right. We think that the June ACT may go forward. Kind of depends on how America addresses things. There will be August and September tests for these tests. You may want to sign up for your test dates now. Sign up now. Because just because tests are canceling doesn't mean you'll be able to get the new ones. Will they have enough test centers? Will there be room in the test centers? We have seen it in the past where test centers close, where test centers get overfilled, where test centers are unavailable to you. So if you are going to be a rising 12th grader in your last year and applying to schools over the next season, sign up for the test dates now before they're full. We're actually very excited on one point, and that is that SAT. SAT is now having an August test date for international students. So that's a good thing. And for many of you, that may be the best one to focus upon. Also, don't forget, many American universities will want you to take what we call subject tests. If you don't know about those, talk to your counselor, contact us, but not everyone will. Which schools will require which tests? We don't know, and you don't either. Even without coronavirus, our American universities change their testing requirements every year. There's a popular trend in the United States towards what is called test optional. We don't have to take any tests at all. However, getting good score on these tests will help you. Just because it's test optional does not mean that's the best strategy for you. Some schools will not require subject tests if you take ACT because it has more sections. Some schools will. We don't know how many of them will change their testing requirements between now and even January, because I've seen it that they'll change them in the middle of the admission season. My point is this: be prepared. Go ahead and plan on taking all the tests you may need, because you may need them. You probably don't know exactly what schools you'll be applying to, and their requirements vary. They're not the same. So be ready for everything you need so you're not left without one of the little boxes being checked. Okay. Let's talk about the various ways that you can prepare and study for these standardized tests. They're basically three. Number one, You do it on your own. We call that self-study. Here at UCA, we're not a big fan of self-study. Why? Number one, you have to be really motivated. Number two, nobody's helping you and noticing some problems. Number three, there's a lot of strategy in SAT and ACT. These are reasoning tests as much as they are content tests, and you don't know the strategy. So sure, you could use a book or do Khan Academy, but that requires you being vigilant and having the best possible materials, and for most of you, and that included me when I was your age, not a good idea. Number two, you take a course. This is very popular in certain parts of the world, particularly in China. People like to take these boot camps. Not a big fan of courses for a couple of reasons. Number one, the instructors are not necessarily professional test instructors. How do I know this? I used to do it. I taught test prep for Kaplan, and I was a graduate student. Very often in the United States, especially, the teachers are high school teachers or graduate students trying to make a little extra money, and this is not their full-time profession. Number two, the classes are generally not interactive, particularly if they're online. You don't really interact with other people. You don't necessarily interact well with the instructor. The instructor talks, you listen, nobody says anything, nobody wants to ask any question because everybody wants to get out of there. And it's not a really vibrant, robust, interactive environment. And number three, in a classroom, the class moves at the pace of the class. Look, they tend to go slow. And generally when people sign up for multi-classes, by the third one, they're bored. There are others like boot camps. And I used to think that maybe these would work well. These are when you go for extended periods and kind of jam for maybe even 6 hours a day. Here's the problem. Very few people can focus well for 6 hours a day. Doesn't really work well. In fact, biologically, or at least experientially, I can focus at best for 3 straight hours and then I'm done. The whole high school environment where you're there for 7 hours, kind of based on a fallacy that you can actually pay attention for 7 hours. When you get to university, it doesn't work that way. And frankly, in the boot camps, it doesn't work that way either. I know you feel like you get it done in an intensive, focused, short period of time. Not our favorite option. Our favorite option is to use professional test tutors. Why? Because they're really well experienced and because they can personalize your experience. Here's an example. I heard this from a test tutor. A girl came in wanting to get a better score on her ACT. And I'm generalizing the story, but she came in with a 30 on a scale of 1 to 36. She thought she could get a 33 or 34, and frankly, after they did their preparation, that's how she pre-tested. She'll get a 33 or maybe a 34 in the ACT. So she took it and got a 30 once again. What happened? Did you finish the sections? Yes. Did you have any special problems? No. So the tutor gave her some practice questions that she had done previously, 10 of them. But when she finished them, she only got 7 right. These are things that they had gone over. She should know them. So the tutor gave her 5 questions. She got all 5 right. And he gave her another 10. Still only 7. How about 5? Yep, she got all 5 right. So the tutor suggested no more practice on content, practice on method. And in this case, he said, look, you're going to do 5 questions at a time, and then you're going to stop for 30 seconds. I don't care what you do. Stare at the ceiling, play with your pencil. Doesn't matter. Just stop and then start again. She practiced that. She retook the ACT and got a 35. Now that's a good story, but it only happens when somebody's paying attention to you. Because the test prep process actually has 3 pieces. One of them is to make sure you have full content. There are times when there's a gap in what you know. Maybe it's because you were sick, maybe because it wasn't taught well, maybe because you were asleep in class, or maybe you just didn't get it. So we want to make sure you have full content. The second, to understand the strategies in the SAT or ACT. There are strategies, like I said, these are reasoning tests, and there are methods to address these. That's kind of different than doing a final exam. Third level would be watching your method, as in the case of the girl who simply needed to do it in shorter pieces to succeed. And test tutors will do this, and they'll do one more thing. They'll give you a free diagnostic test. This is actually very valuable for them so they can identify where your content lapses might be. But contact a good test tutor and you'll get a free diagnostic, which will help you prepare better. And it's free. Take it. It's free. Please do not just take one of these tests to see how I'm going to do. Oh, I know how you're going to do. Not as well as you prepare. Why would you do that? Why would you take this test just to see how you're not going to do very well? Don't do that. Prepare. Additional reason, many times, the universities want to see every time you take the test. And if you just try one just to see how you do, yeah, they're going to see how you do as well. So get with professionals so that you can prepare well for these very important tests. Now, by the way, how many times should you take the test? 1, get a perfect score, move on. Do not plan on failure. Have backup test dates available, but do your best. Let's talk more about how to do the best. First, let's talk about preparation. You're going to have to do some work. These are different tests than you're mostly familiar with. There's a lot of material, and frankly, you can't just hire a tutor or go to a boot camp and expect magic dust to give you a great score. It doesn't work that way. Most tutors will say for every hour of instruction, you need about 3 hours of prep. Many tutors will tell you that your improvement is based upon the amount of hours you put in, or at least the amount of intelligent work you put in. You're going to have to do some work. So please don't blame the tutor when you don't do well. You need to practice. And understand, for those of you who are in Asia, you're at a disadvantage. United States students have been taking SAT since grade 7. These are American-style tests, and we take them all the time here in the USA. So pay attention to these things. Just because you're good at math doesn't mean you're good at an American-style math test. So pay attention. But please do not chain yourself to your desk to prepare for these things. Do not use quantity over quality. That's important to understand, because here's what we see all the time, and I've been doing this for years. When students don't like studying anymore, they stop studying. If you get flat, if you get depressed, if you're just not interested anymore, you may not get that interest back. So look at this more of quality over quantity. For example, take your phone. Use the stopwatch function. Put 25 minutes on there. Go. And when the 25 minutes is over, just stop. Do as much as you can, as well as you can. Just stop. It's way more fun than sitting there for 3 hours. And if you want to do another 25 minutes later in the day, help yourself. But 3 hours straight is really fatiguing. And just because you did good 3 hours doesn't mean the next one will be any good. So maybe think about doing this in short bursts, particularly if you're doing things on the internet with a tutor or even without, because there's a lot of focus looking at the screen, and it takes calories, and you get tired. Try not to get tired. We need to do all the work, but we need to do it intelligently. And if you like to mix up your homework by going to a coffee shop or a restaurant or a friend's house, go ahead. It's fine. Find the best way for you to study. And parents, please work with your students to find their best method, not what you want. Get them to do the best possible work, and maybe even the most efficient, shortest amount of time. Quality, not quantity. All right. Perhaps the most important thing I can tell you today is to understand the nature of these tests. These are what we call standardized tests. to you. A standardized test is one that has 4 bubbles, A, B, C, and D, and you pick one, and that's standardized test. That is true. That's not what it means to us. Standardized means that the test scores are standardized from one test date to the next to the next. If there's going to be a June test and an August test and an October test, the scores need to be basically the same. It's not curved. They're very careful to say this is not being curved. Instead, it's a term called equating. Now I'm going to show this to you. That is, if it lets me. Got it. There we go. This is from the official College Board site. And it talks about scoring and equating. And basically, you can see it. A May 2018 math number and a March 2019 math number. Basically, those groups need to come out around the same number, or else the results of May 2018 and March 2019 won't be consistent. And if they're not consistent, well, then the test is not valuable to the universities, because who knows? If it's a 200 to 800 scale or 400, 1600 point scale, they got to be basically the same from test to test to test to test. Why is that important? It's important because to have substantially similar results, you need substantially similar tests. They're more than just substantially similar. They're basically the same. They're almost identical. What this means is this. You've seen these questions before, and you're going to see them again. For example, the main theme of the passage is, I'm sure when you've done reading comprehension, you've seen that question. Good. You're going to see it again. Essentially, they use the same format for questions and change the data in the question. For example, instead of 2x plus 3y, next time it might be 3x plus 2y. Why? Because if they give everybody different questions for different tests, then it's very difficult to equate those results in a way that, well, makes the test valuable as the determinant. So you're going to see the same questions. That's important to remember, because instead of having hundreds and thousands of possible things, there's actually kind of a limited number of questions you're going to get. So one of the first strategies we like to make is this. I'd like you to look at your test book or online and just look at the questions. Just look at them. Look for the repetition. You'll see it. I had my niece do this. Find at least 10 questions that repeat like 5 or 10 times, and she did. Didn't take very long. Once you realize that the questions will repeat, then you'll feel comfortable that the strategies you are learning are going to work, instead of, oh, there's one of those questions. It's going to be more like, oh, there's one of those questions. You see, this is a test where you can prepare. By understanding what you're getting, you'll be able to absorb the information because it has context and you have perspective. So let's start with that. Understand the questions repeat. And by the way, so do the answers. They're all formatted. You've heard this, you've seen this, you've been told this, you've been taught this. Pay attention. They will repeat. So we give our students a few exercises. Those exercises include the following. Number 1, go find a book or look online. I want you to find 10 math problems, 10 that you've never done before. And I want you to promise yourself that you will finish those 10 problems in 7 minutes. 7 minutes, you got to go pretty quickly. That's about 45 seconds per question. 10 math problems, 7 minutes. However, there is one rule for this exercise. You can't do any math. No math. Don't use a calculator. Don't use a slide rule. Don't write down the stuff and try and do it by hand. Don't count on your fingers. Don't count in your head. No math. Stare at them. Look at them. Use logic to figure it out. Work quickly, but look at the structure of the question, the structure of the answers, and see what you can figure out. Because on average, our students get between 6 and 8 right out of 10 without doing any math. Why is this important? Imagine that you really don't know an answer, but you trust your logic and reasoning. And for those questions you just otherwise wouldn't know what to do, you can get 75% right. Now, how would that go? It'd be nice, wouldn't it? And it's possible. I'm not saying this is your main strategy, but there will be times when you're looking at a problem that's really big and really hairy and really ugly, and you're like, oh, it's going to take me forever, and I'll probably just get it wrong anyway. Well, maybe don't try that method. If it doesn't work going this way, try working this way. There is a logic, there is a structure, there is a method to the madness. So 10 problems, 7 minutes, see how you do. No math. But I've got another thing I want you to do as well. And this has to do with reading comprehension. Now, before I explain the method, I want you to understand that not every person thinks the same way. Not every person likes to read. I really don't read fiction. Actually, I never read fiction. In fact, I kind of never read much of anything. I'm the kind of person that likes to multitask and juggle ideas and blah, 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 blah. You stick me in line and I'm not happy. I am what I call a parallel thinker, meaning I'll do lots of things at the same time. But one thing, no, doesn't work for me. I have 5 electric guitars. I love playing electric guitar. I don't play it nearly as much as I should. Why? Because I don't like to practice. Music is very linear. One note, next, next, next. And I don't like being linear. I don't like being constrained. Why are they electric guitars? Because I can put distortion on them and it sounds better when you don't practice. But I'm not a reader. I don't like being stuck in time. So on a reading comprehension, I really like the answers. There's 4 of them. I love looking at those and juggling them around. But I can't tell you how many reading comprehension tests I've taken in my life, but I can tell you this, I don't think I've ever actually read the passage. I skim it. Then look at the answers. Then look at the passage. Then look at the answers. Look at the passage. Look at the passage. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work very well. In fact, every test tutor I've ever spoken to says that the people who do best on reading are the ones who like to read and actually do read. It works better that way. But then there are the people who do like to read. You know what you guys don't like? The answers. You like staying in line. You don't like having 4 lines. So, for those of you who are avid readers, I want you to do a little exercise before you get deeply into the test prep. I want you to go to reading comprehension and just study answers to questions. No reading a passage. Don't even really look at the question. I want you to stare at the answers. It's like Where's Waldo? I want you to understand the differences in all of these. I want you to see that there are some slight differences because there are strategies involved. Superlatives, usually not right. You know the kind. Somebody always does this. Somebody never does this. Those are wrong. Nobody speaks in total extremes. So you're left with 2 answers. One of them seems okay and the other one seems kind of wonky. It's usually the one that's okay. But if you're a big reader, I want you to get very comfortable with the questions, or more specifically, I want you to get comfortable with the answers because there's 4 of them and you don't like 4. Once you get comfortable that you're okay with 4 things, life will be better. Strangely, it's the readers who seem to be challenged as much on reading comprehension because they get to the 4 answer choices and they hit the wall. No, the multitasking people who don't read, they'll find a way to finish it. So for you guys who don't like to read passages, sit down with a book or look at it online. Just read passages. I don't care how slowly you go. Learn how to read in a way that you actually absorb. It's like 2 paragraphs. You should be able to do this. It probably won't take you very long to get your rhythm, but focus on the reading because you'll be fine when you get to the answers. My point is this. Please start by being comfortable with the test itself. Then get to a test tutor if possible, and they'll help you with making sure you have full content, understanding the strategies on these tests, and watching your method to make sure that you're not doing something that makes you underperform. Because let's remember, this is about performing on a test. I don't really care if you prepare well. I care that you perform well. It's a little bit like going to the Olympics. You don't practice and then stop just before the test and then think you're going to perform well. I don't care what Usain Bolt does in practice. I care what Usain Bolt does in the race. So understand the test and then study for it. Now, there are some things that you can do to improve your scores at the last minute without a lot of work. This is stuff you want to hear, right? Okay, number one, if you have ever been an athlete or a performing artist, musician, thespian, I have a question for you. Do you warm up before your performance or a practice? Do you warm up your fingers or your body? I'm sure you do. Before you take an SAT or ACT, do you warm up your brain? Do you get your brain moving so that when you start, you don't feel like this? Come on, man, let's go, let's go, let's go. The cobwebs you got to break through. You start slower when you're not warmed up. You're less confident. Not the best way to start your test. Instead, in the morning, over whatever breakfast you happen to eat, spend a few minutes reminding yourself what you are about to do. Look at the sections, look at your notes. Don't try new problems. Don't get yourself anxious because you got something wrong. Just get your brain warmed up. 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. You're going to do better. Also on the day of the test, if at all possible, and you have a friend who's going to the same test center, go with your friend. Why? There's a thing called test anxiety, where you get nervous. You don't perform well when you're nervous. So what I want you to do is go with a friend to the test center and talk about something that's not the SAT or ACT. We've seen this go the wrong way with students. We actually had a pair of twins. One went with a friend and one went by herself. The one who went with a friend did really well. The one who did not do really well because the anxiety crept in. And then when she saw her sister did well, the anxiety got worse from test to test to test. So if possible, distract yourself. Go with a friend. However, there is an exception. If the friend is one of those really panicky, anxious, scary types, don't go with them. Just try to relax a little bit, because this is all about performance, and I want you to have the right mindset. You can take the test over. It won't be the end of the world. You need to be fearless when you take this test, not fearful. And that's true with everything. Writing your essays, doing your interviews, taking SAT or ACT. Be fearless. Go for it. I like to say, and maybe it's not politically correct, rip it by the throat. Or if you're a tennis player, smash the forehand. Just let it go. Don't fear it. Beat it. But there's some things you can do the week before as well. For example, drink a lot of water. Why would you drink a lot of water? Because the human body is primarily made of water, and that includes the blood. And the blood takes the oxygen to the brain, and the brain needs the oxygen and performs better. So if you have water and you're not dehydrated, you're going to do better. Trust me, when you're a little short on water and dehydrated, you go a little crazy. Not good. Every day, drink water. Eat well. Not so much fat in your diet, not so much sugar in your diet. It is your brain, which is an organ, that is going to help you treat it well. And of course, get some sleep all week long. Go to bed early. Not just because you'll be rested, because I got what's practically a guarantee. On the night before the test, you probably won't sleep that well. So your choice is this: either, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not going to sleep. Or, I slept all week. I'll be fine. The mental aspect, the emotional mental aspect of a mental test is really important. So eat right, drink water, get plenty of sleep, take care of yourself, and then rip that test. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Next week on Tuesday, again, Miss Kimberly Santa Maria of Writing Coaches America will be around to help you more about the verbal sections, and then we'll have some assistance later in the coronavirus initiative on the math sections. But for now, if you do have questions that we can answer, and if you have other things you need to know, or if you want to know about us here at UCA, here we are. We're University Consultants of America. We're working through the coronavirus. We want you to work through the coronavirus. Please do not let school closures and the changing in your environment slow you down. The clock still moves. Admission season is approaching. And if we can help or can answer questions, info@universitycoa.com. So until next time, I'm Bob LeVine. Hope this helped. We want to help because I'm too old to change the world, but you're not. And we want to help and maybe even get some credit for it. Just kidding. Thank you very much, and we wish you the best.